RotoGrinders. Welcome to the DFS pregame show here on RotoGrinders. I'm Jordan Cooper, aka Blender at Blender HD. If you want to follow me there on Twitter, and it's Casual Friday. We're going casually through some maybe a little bit of NBA review. Then we'll be going over some NFL for Sunday, and maybe take a little quick peek at some MMA. There's not much to peek at. We just had a fight canceled. So now we're down to what, 14 fights, 14, 13, 14, something like that. So that means ownership is off and everything. I still need to get a source in there. I think that the one of the fights doesn't have like a inside the distance, or I have to check. So it's not going to be completely accurate as of right now. I'll be updating that later today. But people like the MMA stuff at the end. Be a shorter show today. I got another show after this. I'm going to be on the Pete Overzet channel. I'm going to be with Pete talking about GPPs for Sunday slate. So if you want to tune into that at noon, right after this show. But as always, give me those thummy thumbs here. Right before you give the thummy thumbs to Pete, you give the thummy thumbs to me. Give me the thummy thumbs. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live every time here on the channel. I see you guys. Feel free to post whatever you want in the YouTube chat. Even if I'm blabbing on, I still scroll back. I still answer pretty much anything that you type in there. Good morning, everyone. Let's see. Going through yesterday's slate. I just want to highlight the fact on yesterday's slate. We get this all the time, especially in the RotoGrinders Discord, which you can be a part of if you're a premium member. So sign up. Click on the link in the description. Get $10 off your first month. Montrezl Harrell yesterday was mega chalk. Right, Daniel Gafford got injured the day before. The prices came out, pretty much before then, and Montrezl Harrell is sitting there at like around 5,500, likely to play 36 to 38 minutes at center for the Wizards, and he projected like absurdly, right? Absurdly. Like if you took him out of your lineup, your projection went down by 5 or 6 points. Just simply by not having him in the lineup. His smash percentage was over 50%, I believe, yesterday. His median was like 7, 8, like 8 plus X. These aren't the people that you fade in basketball, right? This isn't MLB. This isn't NFL. This isn't an event-based sport. It was going to be hard for Harrell to bust, right? To bust. Bust meaning a snowflake at his price at 5,500. Could he have had a pedestrian game and given you 32, right? Maybe the flame doesn't show up for a 30. Maybe he still does at 5,500. 28, you could still win with the 28 at 5,500 or whatever. But you can't win when the guy goes 10x and scores 56 points at 76% ownership. In basketball, because it is much more linear, right? It's less variant. You could see here just from the exposures of like some top players I picked out. I mean, some like Cheese, 78%. Okay, which is about still slightly over the field, around the field. But for the most part, a Hubro, lock button, Giant Squid, lock button, Mock Lovin, lock button, Oxen Duck, Brick 75, lock button. And then E. Hafner and JK and Kobe for MVP, near lock buttons, 89, 86, 86%. These aren't the guys. When they project that well, where your projection goes down that dramatically by just one player, these aren't the times to be cute, especially on a smaller slate, right? On a larger slate, maybe there's enough options that you can make up that projection. Maybe there's a way for that guy to fail, right? We're not talking about like chalk value on a slate where like, oh, the guy projects for like 6.2x, right? We take a look at today's slate, right? Look at the best like point per dollar, not even RGV. Like Bruce Brown at 3,800 on DraftKings may be like a value play today, right? Chris Duarte at 5,500 with Brogdon out. Maybe a value, but 5.5x, 5.9x, right? Smash percentages, the top one currently, this is the algorithmically generated projections. Our projections team will come in and manually update some of this stuff. This isn't the chalk where you slam, 100% of, right? This isn't it. This is probably the ones where you play less of, Okay. But when we have guys, if I could go to the historical projections, let me bring this up. From yesterday, I think they should be up. A lot of times they're not early enough. Let's go to yesterday's slate, Thursday's slate, to just take a look at the projection on Harold. Okay. All right, guys, locked in my lineup. Cash games. Okay, so we take a look at the historical. We go to our projection. Harold was 7.62x. We projected him median wise at 40 points at 5,300. Okay. Okay. The next was like Dwight Powell, and then Desmond Bain, and then Melton. Now that you're getting into the high fives and low sixes, like those guys aren't like must plays. And I don't like using the term must play. Like you didn't have to use Harold in a lineup, right? We see that they did make some constructions without them, but at 76% owned in the fadeaway, he was under owned. Right? We don't get that in other sports. We don't get if there's a 76% owned pitcher or even pitcher in baseball, which is less variant than the batters. He'd be like 76%. I'm gonna fade on a 6-game slate. You don't have to play him. 76% owned batter, like forget about it. Like it's an event-driven sport, even in NFL. Oh, what happens if we have Christian McCaffrey at 5,000? Whatever. Like, what's his efficient ownership? Now, his efficient ownership at 5,000 may be 70%, right? But it may not. His efficient ownership, not like Harold. Harold's efficient ownership yesterday could have easily been 95+%, easily. So 76%, he's actually under owned. So you can't think in terms of what's the chalk and what's not the chalk. That's not thinking of good chalk, bad chalk is not the way to play DFS. It's thinking of over-owned and under-owned. Was Luka over-owned at 58%? Possibly. I mean, it's a small slate. But we take a look at like Devin Vassell. He was 25% owned in the fadeaway. And you could see here, so many sharp players were under. Bro had 0. Duck had 0 out of 150. Giant Squid, 1.3%. Vassell's on this slate, his efficient ownership was probably much lower than 25%. Aaron Holiday's even ownership may have been lower. It should have been lower than 22. Or Walker. I mean, comparison, like KCP had a game. Of course, he couldn't have that game yet the day before when I had him, right? Of course, Dinwiddie wasn't out there, right? Should KCP been 5% owned? Probably not. Maybe his efficient ownership was 10%. Well, that means he's more valuable to play. But you have to think like that even for the chalkier players. Oh, Montrezl Harrell's going to be uber chalk. I'm going to fade him and make a line. Oh, whoa. You're thinking too black and white. What do you think Harrell's efficient ownership is? And if you think it's higher than what it is, then why aren't you playing? And if you ran lineups and you saw that you're dropping 5-6 points in projection, just simply not having him. If he's going to be 76% owned, why not take the 5 or 6 points and move on with your day, right? If we run lineups, like let's see, can I run the lineups in historic? Okay, I'm going to run the lineups in this is historic from yesterday. Okay, so I'm not using actual, I'm using the projected one. Okay, I'm going to go to build rules to make it like less. Okay, so I'm gonna screw it. I'm just gonna run. I'm gonna run 20 lineups, whatever, with Harold, just the optimals, right? So I'm gonna build 20 with the actuals, with the projection one. Okay, so we get basically my cash lineup that comes up first, right? Curry, Holiday, Luka, Johnson, Harold. So Harold's here. Harold's in 100% of lineups. Okay, the top lineup is 270.75. If I X out Harold and give me 20, so without Harold, 247.75. I mean, like, this is not 5 or 6 points. Look how many points that you give up. Oh, hold on. No, this is okay. I'm looking at the actual. Okay, hold on. The way that they show this. Okay, projection 282. Okay, it's okay. I didn't realize they show it ownership, then projection, then actual. Okay, so 282 was the projection with Harold. Without Harold, 272. 10 points. You lose 10 points of projection by not playing the dude. Okay? So let's go to the first build. And let's X out Bane now. Like these guys are 100%. So let's say I don't play a lineup with Bane in it. The lineup with Bane is 282. The lineup without Bane is 280.5. You give up maybe 2 points. 1.5, 2 points, something like that. Okay, that's doable. Talking about one bucket. Okay, that's fine. Let's go back to the first thing again. Put Bane back and then take out Luka. These guys that have 100%. They're in all top 20 lineups. So I'm going to take out Luka. With Luka is 282. Without Luka, 279. Okay, that's doable, right? 3 points. 3 points is doable. 10 points is ridiculous. Okay? So if you were to fade anyone, you fade Bane. You fade Luka. How do I fade Luka with Porzingis out? Well, look at what happened. I mean, come on. But you can't go by the results. But this is how you should be judging. You shouldn't be judging it by who's chalk and who's not chalk. You could have easily faded some of these guys. So we go back to the first build. Right? Who are some other guys that are up here? Oh, what happens if I don't play Kyle Kuzma? Okay. What does it look like? 282 with him. 282 without him. Right? That's the optimal lineup. So did you have to play Kuzma? No, you weren't really sacrificing anything by not playing Kuzma based on our projections. Let's say you didn't play Melton. 282 with Melton, 282.46 with Melton, 282.14 without Melton. Well, that's someone that's not necessary. Right? You can have less lineups with Melton in it. It's only going to affect you by 0.3, like less than a point. This is how you should be judging it, not by Harold's going to be 76% owned. I'm just going to fade him and hope that he fails. Well, what's failing at 5,300 when his median is 40? His median is 40. Just take the points and move on. Because even if he puts up 30 and he only goes for 6x, he could still be in the winning line, right? That's still decent, good enough value for a $5,300 player at center. So I saw so much discussion yesterday. It was like, what do I do with Harold? Do I play him? Do I fade him? The dude projects so well that the only way to make any lineup without him is to drop 10 points. You're putting yourself in such a hole. You need Harold to get injured at that point to make up 10 points. You needed to put up 18, 20 points, something like that, which is in his range of outcomes, true. But his chance of being in the optimal lineup is high. Like, what's the actual optimal? Like, what happened? Let's see what we look at actual. Kleber went nuts. And this is after he wasn't starting. Such a weird game script for the Mavericks. The first unit just died the first 6 to 8 minutes. And then the second unit brought them back. So we take KCP, Milton, Collins, Eric Pascal. What was the best possible lineup that you could have made yesterday? Right, basically, no, I did it on fantasy points. Let me do it on actual. You're going to see Harold. You're going to see Kleber. Right. Kemba Walker, Brunson, KCP, Collins, Harold, Curry, Kleber, Embiid. This was a lineup that could have been made. Why not? 377. What was the winning lineup in the fadeaway? 362. You could have gone there. The winning lineup in the fadeaway was Ja, KCP, Bane, Kleber, Olynyk, Curry, Collins, Harold. So basically no Luka. Right? That's doable. Well, I guarantee you all the top lineups have Harold when he goes 10x. So you don't think so black and white. Like fade. Oh, the guy's chalk, I'm fading. I'm like, because some people think that way. They go into it slate and they go, okay, who are the 2 or 3 chalkiest players? X them out and then build lineups. Like, well, what are you sacrificing? That's the question you need to be asking. How much are you sacrificing? If you can fade all three players and sacrifice a point, then go ahead. Then that's probably a good example of, play the leverage game, play the ownership game that way. When you got guys that are projecting so well, especially in basketball, which is less variant, like you see from the top players. It's not like I'm making this up. They're just jamming. They're just jamming this stuff in the NBA. So I know I'm not on crunch time. I'm not on Grinders Live often, but people asked, I hear it. Is it crazy for me to fade Harold? Yes, it probably is. It probably is. No matter what, unless he's going to be 98% owned, but he's probably not, then it probably is crazy. Let's see. Michael Dompier. I was at the field with Harold ownership, but I thought I'd be over. I had a mental hurdle with having my cumulative ownership being huge with Harold lineups. Well, you could have faded Luka. Now your ownership goes down. You could have faded Bane. Look, I just went through the exercise with the actual projections. How many points are you giving up by not having them? And how much ownership are you gaining by not having them? How much drop in ownership? We saw, we'll go back to this. Where's the historic? Okay. So with this, because this is the projected ownership that's in here, right? I believe so. Or is this the actual ownership? No, this is the projected ownership. Right? 198% owned, 282. This is without Harold. 162 and 270. Dropping 10 points in projection, and you're getting rid of, a lot of owners, 35 points in ownership, but is that worth it? Here's the one without, this has Luka, but no Bane. This actually is higher owned. Here's one without Luka, 201. You could have played these. Does it mean you play Bane and Melton together? No. Does it mean you play Kuzma in this lineup? No, not necessarily. There are other ways to get a little bit lower ownership. So you see, but you have to do this exercise. How many points am I giving up by not playing this guy? On a lot of slates, the answer is going to be not much. You're going to look at the chalkiest guys on the slate and go, I can make a lineup without him. You can make a lineup with them also. You take a look at the top 5 chalkiest players and go, any one of these guys I could fade, any 2 of these guys I could fade, any 3 of these guys I could fade, and not really give up much. Point 2 maybe. But that's why it depends on the slate. It depends on the people. It's not just blanket statement. I don't. If someone said yesterday, you're crazy for fading Luka, they would be wrong. You could. We just looked at the projection by taking Luka out. You could have played Curry. You could have played Embiid. You could have played other guys. Yes, Luka projected. The lineups that Luka's in are 1.5 point high. You could sacrifice 1.5 points. That's nothing. Sacrificing 10 points by not having Harold, that's just untenable. You're putting yourself in such a hole. So it's not a Harold thing, and it's not a Luka thing. It's a lineup thing. So what do the lineups look like? These are not exercises that take a long time to do. You could just literally do them. Look, we could look at today's slate based on these algorithmic projections. I'm assuming if I built 20 lineups, just player bare basic whatever lineups. Who comes in 100% of them as of right now? Of course, it doesn't mean anything right now. I'm having Durant and Brown in all of them, and this is without any manual adjustment. So who knows what this is going to be? So we take a look at this lineup with Bruce Brown, right? Oh my God, I got to jam Bruce Brown. It's probably not going to be. You're probably not going to have to do that. So we're getting 272 in a projection for Bruce Brown lineup. Now let's take Bruce Brown out of the line. How many points down are we sacrificing by not having Bruce Brown? With Bruce Brown, 272.6. Without Bruce Brown, 270.98. So what's that difference? 271, about a little over 1.5 points, about 1.62. That's doable. So that's fine. That's not 10 points. Am I crazy for fading Bruce Brown today? No, you're probably not crazy for fading Bruce Brown today. How long does that take to do? It doesn't take long at all. You just, if you don't believe, I mean, I could tell when you take a look at the projections and you see, RGV of 9 and a point per dollar value of 9, and the guy is, I mean, yeah, I could tell that most likely you're going to be playing them in most of your lives. I don't have to do that little exercise. I'll know. Do I know how many points you're sacrificing? Not necessarily, but I know it's enough that you're probably playing the guy. But if you wanted to do that little exercise, then do it. What do my lineups look like with X? What do my lineups look like without X? And then do that for different people. Do that with 2 people. And what happens if I fade all 3 of them in a lineup? What's the best projected lineup from there? And see how many points you're sacrificing. And if you're fine with the amount of points you're sacrificing, then those guys are like, oh, now I can build lineups with all different types of people. But you may find on a slate like yesterday with Harold, and it's like, dude, pretty much every line was going to have Harold in it, right? That's what I would have done. I would have locked button it, but no problem with it. Going through the YouTube chat. Cameron George, would it be better to select median lineups when crunching, or better to select ceiling lineups that you may run? What's more feasible, I should say? Of course, in big GPPs, it doesn't matter. It's all in relation to one another. You have to compare it to something. Fine, then run ceiling. You're still comparing everything to the top ceiling line, which is going to be very similar to the median lineups. Understand that when you run median lineups, you're more likely to be running lineups that the field is doing, right? Depending on the distribution, the standard deviation of each individual player, you actually may be off. You have to be very comfortable with the distribution curves that you're given in the projections. You don't necessarily trust them that much, that some guy's ceiling may be off. You may get a lot of someone that like no one else is playing. I find that the distributions are not that drastic, that the lineups are going to be dramatically different if you do median or ceiling. Don't concern yourself with that. People, you have to simplify it. I constantly say this. Because here are questions that do not matter much in DFS. What are the best projections? That's not the right question to ask. The question should say, is the projections that I'm using better than what I could do myself? Because if the answer is yes, then the projections are good enough. Our projections around the industry, all of them are good enough. They're not dramatically different enough that it's still better than nothing. Another thing, should I use this? Anything that has to do with settings and lineup HQ, settings in an optimizer, is not important. I told someone this last night. If you're not willing, this may sound harsh. If you have not become a profitable player by hand building 1 to 3 lineups at a slate, I'm talking about for GPP, 1 to 3 lineups a slate for GPP. If you've not been a profitable player over a course of a full year in GPP, building just 1 to 3 lineups and building, okay? You may look at lineup HQ to see the projections, but you're not building. You're literally never pressing the build button. And you're doing it by hand, 1 to 3 lineups. If you're not a profitable player over the course of a year, doing it that way, you should probably not touch any type of optimizer until you are. If you don't know the fundamental concepts of just roster construction in general, all these things that I'm teaching you in the tools are stuff that you could do by hand, that you could visualize yourself. I don't have, oh, well, I'm going to run this with how do you know that Bruce Brown isn't necessary, but Harold is yesterday? Because I could just tell just by the projection. I don't have to run this. I've done this by hand. That's what I did first. To go, oh, let me piece this stuff together. Who are the highest projected players on the slate? What's the ownerships of them? And just hand build the lineup. You're not going to be as precise as doing it with a tool, right? You may be off. Maybe you sacrifice an extra point we didn't need to. You're still going to be better than a lot of the field. Then once you're good at that, then you can translate that and making it more precise. And even with the tool like Lineup HQ, you're still not going to be the most precise. You're not going to be running sims and everything and running lineups against one another and simulating a contest and being even more precise, but you'll be even more directionally accurate. So if you're struggling with like, well, do I use this and do I use that? You're thinking of the wrong things. You should be able to close your eyes, never use this tool, and build lineups that are nearly or identical to these. Like my cash lineup last night, I could have built by hand without possibly without even looking at the projections. I'm good enough to know what the projections are most likely going to say, and I look at the prices. I go, I'm most likely playing Harrell. I'm most likely playing some type of cheap guard, possibly Aaron Holiday in the starting lineup. Melton and Bain are still too cheap. Who am I playing in the front court for the Mavericks with Porzingis out? I need to fill a power forward spot. Of course, Keldon Johnson gets into foul trouble. Maybe I'm playing Kuzma there. Maybe I'm not. I'll see all. Do I play Curry? Do I play Embiid? Well, if I want to play a front court Powell, then I can't play Embiid, so I'm going to pay up for Curry. Like, I don't have to press the button, the optimize button. I could probably figure it out. I could probably run the top 5 lineups, and whatever I came up with in my head without looking is probably one of those top 5 anyway. Well, how do I do that? Well, it's called having 6 years of experience. So that's why I could transition into using tools like this, because I've already visualized it. I could look at a slate and go, what a lineup's most likely going to look like. Nothing that comes up is going to surprise me that much, because I'm looking. I just look at the projections and I see what they are. I go, I'm probably going to get a lot of this guy. I'm probably going to get a lot of that guy. I'm probably going to get none of this guy. This guy looks too low owned, but he doesn't really fit because of positional requirements. So can I play a different type of lineup? Like, all of that you're doing by in your head. And you're doing it over and over and over again, every slate for every sport. Very similar to poker. It's very hard to just say, okay, here's a solver, or here's a heads up display. The first hand you've ever played poker with, or you barely have used. Like, do you understand why you fold in certain situations? Do you understand why you raise here? Do you understand the dynamics of stack sizes? Do you understand positions? I mean, just basic stuff. Probably should do that first before trying to, well, how do I rig this tool to tell me the optimal moves or whatever? You don't even know the basis of anything that you're doing. So, like, you're going to be stuck playing lineups and like you're playing hands in completely odd directions because you don't even know enough to input things correctly. So you know what would be the better way to do? Just get experience. Doing it by hand over and over and over again. I was telling my nephew, he came over. I was showing him, he's into the statistics and stuff. I was showing a bunch of stuff, and he said he's good at poker against his friends, but he doesn't even know the basics of poker. Like, he knows the basic stuff, like what beats what. But when I asked him, it's like, well, what are the odds of what are the odds of hitting a set on the flop? He goes, I have no idea. I said, what are the odds of a flush coming out with one card left? I have no idea. And I had to teach him just that. It's like, well, and its first thing is like, and I was teaching about how many unseen cards are there, how many seen cards, like the bare basic stuff. And he's decent at math, and he's like, well, it seems kind of difficult. Do you have to do that calculation in your head, like every single hand? I go, no. These situations come up so often that you just memorize them, right? That you don't have to do the calculation. There are charts. Just memorize a chart, right? What are the odds of this happening? 4 to 1. What are the odds of that happening? 2.5 to 1. And you don't even have to be perfect, right? It's 7.27 to 1. Now, who cares? 7 to 1. Close enough, right? So when you're at the table, you don't have to do these types of calculations. But the only reason that you get used to it is because you've done it over and over and over and over again. So that's what I would suggest first before, like, oh, I'm getting into DFS. How do I use lineup HQ? It's like, hold on. Learn the concepts first, right? Don't use this advanced tool before you understand what the hell it's doing, because then you're going to be stuck. Then you're going to be stuck with the same, so many people, the optimizer gave me, right? That term. The optimizer gave me this. No, you told it. It's just doing whatever you tell it to do. Didn't give you anything. Okay, go through YouTube chat. Let me run some NFL lineups on the way. So still the NFL's going on. So I'm using the blitz projections. I'm just going to run lineups with the 10% quarterback exposure, just to see what stacks come up. Like I'm looking for, you know, running stacks, naked stacks, right? I'm just going to put two teammates. It doesn't matter what it is. 100% of lineups with no run back. And then I'm going to run one with a run back and just see the differences. So cap it at 10% per quarterback, which means we'll get 10 quarterbacks out of 100, and see what the projections do for one another based on the blitz. So I'm going to run that, and then let's go through the YouTube chat. Bob Base, Maxi Kleber was over 15% owned, yet RG ownership was like 3%. How did they miss it? I just disregarded him because of the ownership. The ownership changed after the starting lineup came. Maxi Kleber, it depended on what you thought the starting lineup was going to be. RG, RotoGrinders, our projections before 6:50, right? 10 minutes before lock, had Bullock starting. Okay. You have to understand what the dynamics of what this is all of what I'm good at. Maxi Kleber yesterday, I would have put in at 15% personally. I would have. Why was the RotoGrinders ownership 3%? Because our projections had Bullock in. You know what the starting lineup was? Bullock was in. RG projected that starting lineup perfectly. Right? Some people, if they played big, Kleber would start. So it would be Luka and it would be small. Finney Smith would play as a small forward, and Kleber would play as a power forward. Both ways were, you know, you're just speculating at that point, right? Our team, our projections team, went with Bullock's going to start, not Kleber. And in that case, Kleber's minutes go down, right? Kleber is coming off the bench, and he's not that high FPPM type of guy. So we project Bullock higher, and we project Kleber lower. Hence, the 3% ownership. Because why would you play Kleber off the bench in that spot? You would. You'd more likely play Bullock. You go, well, then why was it what? Then why did he come in at 15%? Because RotoGrinders ain't the only site that's out there. And plenty of people thought Kleber was going to start. Most people did. Most people thought Kleber was going to start. And until 6:50, 10 minutes before lock, they built their lineups as if Kleber was starting. And if you thought Kleber was starting, you have to bump his minutes up by 4. You bump Bullock's minutes down by 4, and now Kleber becomes a reasonable enough punt play. And his ownership would be around 10 to 15%. But that's outside of, it's outside. You have to look outside and see what people are doing. I knew people would expect Kleber to start. I knew that. I thought it was a horrible play for him off the bench. Now, of course, he gets there running hot with seven blocks or something. But that's the reason why. Why is the ownership off? Well, it's ownership because it's based on an irrationality. Our ownership is based upon math. If you want to change it based on what you believe other people will do, that's your responsibility to do. We don't know. Our team doesn't know what irrational behavior is going to be out there. If the starting lineup for the Mavericks was announced an hour and a half before, instead of 10 minutes before lock, Kleber would have been probably about 6%, maybe 6%. Right? Still, some people would have still played. You know, more so than 3%. But I'm telling you, that's the reason. because it's 10 minutes before lock and people have already put in their lineups as if Kleber's starting and not changing it within the last, 7. I think the lineup came out at like 6:53 or something, like 7 minutes before lock. And then a lot of people don't late swap anyway, right? Because this game wasn't until later, but an 8:30 game or something. That's the reason. Let's see. Trey, Blender, do you use this process for all sports, finding the projected optimal percentage and then make lineups that project similarly with lower ownership? Yeah, why wouldn't you? That's the core basis of DFS. You're not going to be able to make lineups that project similarly, because if you could make lineups that project similarly, then they wouldn't be as lower owned. You're not going to find, oh, here the optimal is this, and the optimal minus 0.1 is half the ownership. The field isn't that dumb. So you're gonna have to sacrifice projection in order to get lower ownership. And depending on the contest that you're playing, will determine the ownership, because the ownerships will be different in different contests. The larger the field, the more projection you're willing to sacrifice, because you want to increase the variance of your lineup as much as you can. Smaller field stuff, you don't have to sacrifice that much projection. Where is that line? That's a slate to slate thing. That's you to judge. There's no way. There's no correct answer to that. There's no number that you could apply to every slate. It's always going to be different, and it's always going to be judgment. Now, on the extreme ends, you'd be like, should you ever? I'm going to give up 70 points in projection in NBA. No, you're probably wrong. At that point, you're probably wrong. I'm going to find the lineup that only projects 1 point lower and has a tenth of the ownership. That's never going to happen. The field isn't that dumb. You're never going to find. So it's going to be somewhere in between there, depending on what contest you're playing. That's the goal. So yes, the process is the same regardless. So I'm taking a look now at lineups for NFL using the blitz projections. I'm just looking at stacks now. What do they project for together? Because a stack contains a quarterback and 2 of their teammates. And I'm not ruling out the running backs either. So I'm just looking at like just teams in general using the blitz projection. So like we have Matthew Stafford, 151. So it's Stafford, Henderson, Cup. Like that. That's what I expected. Stafford's at 151. Wentz, 152. Herbert, 152. Ryan, 154. Hurts. Well, I just clicked on Hurts. Hurts, 154. Goff, 155. To use the Lions side of that. And with Swift and Hawkinson. Mac Jones, 155. Sam Darnold, 155. Tom Brady, 151. Right? You would have thought, it's like, oh, Brady stacks. That looks pretty good. Actually projects lower. Lawrence, 152. Josh Allen, 150. This is with Cole Beasley and Tommy Sweeney. Is Dawson Knox out or something? I don't know. But the Allen stacks don't project that well. Based on what I'm just going by the numbers here. And this is naked. So like no run back. So let's go through in the stacks and let's add that run back. Right? So just one, I don't care if it's a running back. You could separate it out even further. So now I'm going to run this with using, a 3+1 type of stack. Now, like I said before about experience and using tools, traditionally, I do not have to do this. Like this process that I'm showing right here, I don't have to do. I could just look at the projections and visualize, well, what games have projected players that are all projected well together. That's all I have to look at. Like I'll know that the combination of them is most likely to project well. The second part is ownership. We're not caring about that yet. But I could look through and I could go, let me take a look team by team and what their salary adjusted value is. So I could go team by team, go RGV, right? And go and look. Cincinnati, New York. You got like 3 guys there, right? You go to San Francisco, Chicago. Like, 3 guys, but it's low guys, right? They're low. Right? Cancel this. I could go to Carolina, Atlanta. They go, look, okay, I got more guys, and they're higher. 2, 2, 2, 4, 4. Oh. Carolina, Atlanta looks pretty good. Right? Like, I didn't have to run these. I know what's going to come up because I'm playing guys from the same game. And they all project well in comparison to their salary. Right? Take a look at Philadelphia, Detroit. I go, this should project decently well, right? I mean, I don't even have to run the lineups to know what games are like that. I'll look at the Buffalo. Where's the Buffalo Miami game? And go, oh, that actually doesn't project well as a stack. Like, I didn't have to run to see that. The Tampa Bay one. I got some guys, but maybe this comes in a little bit lower than people think it is. Like, I can just visualize that, just looking. Like, all you're doing, all the tool is doing is jamming in the most amount of median fantasy points. So games that have more players that have higher median fantasy points comparable to their salary are going to show up more when you do that. I mean, that's just logic. But you know that because if you looked at the projections you hand built, you get used to that. You get used to visualizing what these lineups look like. You wouldn't have to run lineups like this. You could run lineups like this to second check, double check yourself. But I'm showing you a way that if you're not going to do that, but you should understand why Sam Darnold lineups are coming up high. Based on the current projection. Now, if you change your projections, maybe there's another projection set that's much lower on the Panthers. Well, then they're going to come up as high. I mean, that's just simple as it gets. So this is with the run backs. So Stafford, run backs with Brandon Cooks, 151. Davis Mills gets in only because of Henderson. So essentially, the Davis Mills Houston stacks are only valuable because you could use Henderson as a run back for them. Herbert, 152. And you're using Jacoby Myers, who seems to never catch a touchdown. Mac Jones, using Keenan Allen at 153. Jalen Hurts, using DeAndre Swift. Yeah, that makes sense. Goff, using Kenny Gainwell, 154. Sam Darnold, 155. And using Calvin Ridley with an Anderson Moore stack. Geno Smith, Alex Collins, DK Metcalf, 149. So it doesn't project all that. Like, these guys are going to project even less. Lawrence, Robinson, Arnold, and Alex Collins, Carson Wentz, and they get one Brady line. So based on running these lineups, you would think, why Brady double stacks? Why don't I run those? Allen double stacks. Why don't I run those? Well, according to these median projections, they may be overowned. Take a look at quarterback ownership. That's usually, gives us some type of semblance of what the stacks are going to be owned. Hurts, Brady, Allen, Stafford should be the chalk based on our current ownership. We saw Hurts and Stafford, they show up. Brady and Allen, not so much. So maybe based on just this information, like, because if I play a Brady stack, so for instance, we use the run backs. And you go, it's going to be hard. You're going to be giving up projection. If I use a Brady double stack with a run back, Brady, Fournette, Godwin, with Adam Troutman at the tight end position, like, you have to jam in as much projection as possible in order to you need to play Darrell Henderson. You need to play Calvin Ridley. You need to play the Bills defense. You need to do this. So how do you get different elsewhere? So you have to support this stack. This stack is going to be overowned, but it still has a high ceiling. But you're going to have to make up that projection somewhere. Yet, if you play something like Sam Darnold, I have a lot more options now. This Sam Darnold double with the bring back, so 3+1, projects at 155.79. The Brady one projects at 148.84. So we're talking about almost a 7-point difference. And because of that 7 points, you almost need Henderson in this lineup. You have to get that projection up as far as possible. But in the Sam Darnold lineup, I could not play Henderson. I play James Robinson instead. Let's go. Now you drop projection, sure, but I still beat out the Brady lineup. Look, instead of playing Henderson in this lineup, I played Robinson at 50,000. The Browns defense down here. And it still beats out that Brady lineup with Henderson in it. Let's say I take Swift out and put in Henderson there. 153. So I don't need Swift in this lineup. Maybe instead of Calvin Ridley, I play who's going to be kind of chalky. I'll just put in Jacoby Myers there. Can I get up to Kyle Pitts here? No. Let's find a way to get up to Pitts. Go all the way down and play the Washington defense. And let's see, can I get, no, I still can't get up to Pitts. So where can we save? Robinson, can we go Robinson down to Fournette maybe? Something like that. Take Jonnu up to, no, we still can't get up there. A little bit cheaper. 61, Damian Harris, Cordell Patterson, Chuba Hubbard, Antonio Gibson, or Eli. Let's try Eli Mitchell. Move this up to Pitts as the run back. 49-3. Don't want to play, let me play the Seahawks defense, maybe something like that. So here, 152. So I moved stuff around, still got the run back, but used Pitts instead of Ridley. Used Eli Mitchell instead of, I went down here, 152. And it still beats out this Brady stack, this top Brady stack at 148 with Henderson. I have a lot more leeway in these Darnold lineups. A lot more leeway in the Hurts lineups, in the Ryan lineups, and even in the Stafford lineups, I guess. Brady lineups as a double stack, probably as a single stack, Brady Godwin, that may be fine. You could run them and see. So when people ask, like, when do you run it back, when you don't run it back? Like, I'm looking at these dynamics. Just like we looked at before in NBA with Harold. It's not about do you fade, do you play, do you look, how many points are you sacrificing by doing X, by making X decision? Whatever decision that is. Well, I'm not going to play this guy, I'm going to play that guy. Okay, so how many points are you sacrificing? Are you gaining any? And if you're sacrificing points, are you gaining something? What are you gaining by sacrificing projected points? Are you getting ownership? Are you getting, lower ownership? The answer is no. Then why are you sacrificing points? Don't sacrifice them. I mean, these are very simple concepts. This is the base of what DFS is. Any decision that you make, what are you sacrificing and what are you gaining? And is that trade-off worth it? What's the correct answer to that? I don't know. You have to judge that. That's the skill of DFS. You have to judge on a slate-to-slate basis. Is it worth to do this for that? I know it's worth it in concept, but how much for each? I don't know. Let's see. I got to get out of here soon. Let's see. Through the YouTube chat. People, I know there's always one or two people that want the MMA stuff. The MMA stuff is hard to judge because now with the fight gone, and then we don't have the ownership for the Dos Santos St. Dennis fight, but from the looks of it, obviously Chimaev is going to be chalk. The heavyweight, the main event favorites will be chalk. But I think in the low end, I think Petroski is going to be overowned. Petrovsky's going to be over. I think Volkov may be slightly overowned. I have no problem. I think I'm going to have more Tybura. It's a heavyweight fight. Anything could happen. I think I'm more likely to have more Ozdemir maybe based on these numbers. if they're going to be single-digit owned, if Tybura is going to be 8%, if Ozdemir is going to be 10%, I also, Hugh Yao Zhang against Petrosky is great leverage. I don't know how much he scored. I don't know how high scoring he goes. This may be the type of slate that as long as you get one underdog that wins, you may win. I mean, we got some of these massive favorites here. It may just be, could you fit in 3 9K fighters that score 120 plus and then get 3 winners in the rest of your lineup, including one underdog winner? It could be one of those slates. But I think Hu Yao Zhang as leverage off of the 8,600 Petrosky chalk, because Petrosky could gas. He has minus 105 inside the distance. Yeah, he's going to be popular in that mid-range. But that's why I'd like to play someone, leveraged against him. And I like Ozdemir against Ankalaev, but I like Ankalaev also. Like Duriev may be popular. So playing Kopylov, these guys' names. Because you're probably going to have to play someone down here. And a lot of people just go for Glover Teixeira to beat Blachowicz. These names. But I don't got everything done. Right? Because the ownership's going to change now with that fight going. But yes, I think Yao Zhang leverage against Petrosky. I think Tybura against Volkov. I don't think Volkov should be 27% owned. He's not a volley. He's not much. I just don't, at 8,900, I just don't think he puts up enough points, even if he wins. But if Tybura wins, he's 7,300. So give me 90. If he gives me 85 to 90 points, that's fine. So yeah, so there's my MMA stuff for those that want to know. So give me those thumbs ups on your way out the door. I'm going to be heading over to Pete Overzet's channel. So I'll be over there in like 8 minutes. And to talk more NFL GPP stuff, hit the subscribe button if you're new. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live. The Advanced Sports Analytics Show will be coming out later today at about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock on this channel. NBA Grinders Live coming up also, 5:20, 6:20, crunch time. Those are all Eastern time. And that's for premium members. So click on the link in the description. Get $10 off your first month at RotoGrinders. And I'll see you in the Discord. I'll see you on Monday. Good luck. If you're not in my contests, good luck. If you're in my contest, I want the worst of luck to you. But I will see you then for another edition of the DFS pregame show on RotoGrinders.com.